Hey Saints fans, welcome back to the Who Dat Confessional podcast. Today talking about Rashid Shaheed, who really popped on the scene last year. And yeah, there were a couple people who gave him a shout out, thought that he could maybe do something, but probably not many thought that he could go off like he did, which for a rookie and a guy who doesn't have like those first, second round, all those big positives that people like to talk about and all those traits everybody sees, didn't have a lot of that coming through. To see him have the success that he did is pretty impressive. And here is the statistical success that he had here on your screen, as you can see it for yourself. And we're going to take a look at one of the games from the end of the season. The reason I chose that is it's interesting to see how his snap progression just continued to grow and grow as the season went on. In early part of the year, his first game only seeing, 9 or 12 snaps, and then eventually towards the end of the season having games where he was part of 80% of the snaps. And you'll see him a lot in the Philadelphia Eagles game, which is actually what we're going to watch today. So here's what he did, right at 500 yards receiving for a year, a couple TDs, obviously had the ability to stretch the field. And then you just see him providing in multiple ways, even in the running game. So that was pretty dope, and I really like seeing versatility from players, and I'm probably spoiled from that because of, John Payton. See, let's get into the film. And again, I like to say this every single time. Remember, a singular film study that you watch on YouTube, no matter who does it, me, anybody else, doesn't matter what training I've had, any of that, is not enough to make up a full scouting report. So take everything you see with a grain of salt and do your own research and take a look at multiple games. So what we're going to look at here is Rashid. This is actually the first game or the first play of the Philly game. And here is right here, number 89 for those who are unaware. And what you're going to see is this really nice motion. The big thing that I kind of want to talk about early, and I'm sorry for pausing it already. I guess I should have thought about that. Big thing I want to talk about early is how they were using him to help influence the offense. He was actually part of the plays instead of just being another player. So in this particular instance, he is being used to, one, get that motion going. He primarily operates as a slot guy for New Orleans, but will come in that flank role. So his goal here is a couple of things. One, you use motion, and I actually wonder why do teams not use motion at all times? Because motion does several things for a quarterback. One, it can help give you an idea if the team that you are playing against, the defense, is in man coverage, because it will adjust how the corners play. If nobody follows, well, you're either playing against coverage, see nobody follows, this is just shifting. You're either playing against a normal zone coverage or maybe a match concept. Now, we know Philly will do a lot of those type of concepts, so this will give you a better understanding as a quarterback where I'm going to go after play action. And then the design itself I really like. One of the few games I'm going to say, yeah, I like the design. You had Kamara out the backfield pulling into the flat that pulls this defender down. And then you had our good friend Chris Olave running this. He's kind of going in to out. And then from the backside, you have Rashid Shaheed. So what you end up doing is you stressed this area of the field all to open up this design for what is essentially a one route play. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only place they're going to go for, but that's the read, is clear this out, draw the defense over, make them shift, and then hit them right here. It's a good job by Pete Carmichael, and I know we didn't say that a lot last year, but it's a good job to move the defense and dictate the play. So this was a positive, but the key here in terms of why we're including this in a Rashid Shaheed film study is because of how they were using him to be part of the offense. Instead of just being a guy to come in and block, or he's just another player, he actually has dedicated responsibilities, which is nice to see. It showed him earning responsibility as he got deeper and deeper into the season. And it might seem insignificant, but this is actually something you want to look for, to see a guy earn, going from 0 snaps to some snaps. How did he earn that process? Well, here's a good example. Now you have him in this role. He's not really doing much here, but he's essentially blocking in this run play kind of half-heartedly. This is not a super strength for him. This is actually something I want to see him improve. Now he's not getting much resistance either, but I'd like to see more control, more drive. Two people who do this really well last year with the team, Keith Kirkwood, Traquan Smith. And I'm not saying that Rashid Shaheed's trash because he's not an amazing blocker, but you do need to improve that more if you want to get even more responsibility. For example, who do you have lined up right here? Oh, that's not a fullback. That's not a tight end. That's Keith Kirkwood, who has a primary blocking assignment here. Again, this isn't saying Rashid Shaheed's bad. It's just one thing that he needs to get on is a little bit more of that physicality, dominate there. And the reason physicality is good is you get better as a blocker, you focus on that strength, maybe it translates a little bit more for areas that he isn't always great at, which is release at the line of scrimmage. He can get jammed up, which can be a problem. Let's move on to our next play. Right here on my time marker, 140. All right, here we go. So you're basically always going to see Shaheed either playing from a flanker or a slot. This time, he again is part of kind of like a clear out. He's actually on the line of scrimmage right now. He is playing as your split end, which is pretty rare. You don't see a lot of this. I mean, he's usually going to be just kind of a secondary guy, but he's up front now with the goal of clearing out for this guy right here. We're just trying to make a move, try to create a rub, and we want to force a problem. See how we had that switch there with the DB in terms of assignment? We'll try to bring him over a little bit, then we cut back inside. Bam. But it's all helped by Rashid Shaheed. It's nothing crazy, just a little bit to get in the way, slow down that DB, just a half second hesitation to help make a play. Again, this beginning of the game only really showing how he's being included in terms of what Shaheed is doing to earn responsibilities. And even if you're just being a clear out guy, showing versatility, showing use, that's important. And we want to see stuff like that. Let's move on to another one. Don't worry if I'm moving fast. We've got tons of plays to look at. Now they spread it out, right? We're in a 3-by-2 set. Spread it out. Now what are we going to do with the football? Moving around. I love this one. This is him operating from the slot. But what's different here, operating here on the inside, is showing off the mental processing of what happens or what you should do as a wide receiver when your quarterback has to enter what's called the scramble drill. As in, the play is broken down. What do we do now? His actual route is simple. It's basically a little 5-yard hitch route. That's it. A 7-yard hitch route. His goal, literally, go, stop, done. I mean, that's it. He's done right now. This is everything he's supposed to do. But what happens when the play breaks down? And you'll see it better from the other angle. I love this, how he operates. You're always taught you move in the direction the quarterback is moving, and you present yourself a target, and there's a couple things you do to make that happen. You'll see better from this side of the camera. So play doesn't work. Dalton's going to look at his check down, moves this way. A couple things. One, the body positioning, but also, and you'll notice this in a later play we look at, also he's carrying upfield just a little bit to cut off the angle of the DB and open a throwing window, and then does a good job of catching a ball that, honestly, that's where Andy Dalton probably needed to throw it, get it to a place that only your receiver can make a play. Ends up being a positive there. So this is something that I like to see from him. Want to see more, where not only are you lining up on the outside responsibilities like, oh, we got to fear his deep speed, so coverage has to be that way, but also seeing him operate on the inside and providing something there as well. And then another play where he's kind of like an unneeded blocker at the very top. But we're going to fast forward even more. I am kind of picking and choosing plays, but don't worry. You can always go back and check this film yourself and look at various plays. But I think you're getting the basic idea of how things work with Rashid Shaheed. We're going to look at 2 plays this time around. Again, this is another blocking one. The effort, it's there. I mean, he is looking around. He's trying to make a play, but at the same time, you want to see him get really into this, because I think the better he becomes at that, the more it's going to result in him being on the field. So Chris Olave is not a big receiver, but Chris Olave does a lot to impact blocks. Like, he really tries and he gets into those sets. And I think if Shaheed does the same thing, especially if he may be 5 pounds stronger, not much, just to have the wherewithal and to have that play strength to try to come in and make those type of plays, it just earns him more snaps. And at the end of the day, that's all I'm really caring about. If I want to see a player excel, I really want to see him earning more snaps. I want him consistently being 80% of the offensive snaps every game, not one game, right? So little things like this help that happen. So it's not like he has bad positioning, and he was getting no fight at all from the Philly defender, but just want to see a little bit more of that tenacity. But that's, again, this is all only from the point of I want him to earn more snaps, and that's one of the ways he's going to do it. Now, this play is not going to be a running play. You're in a 3-by-1 set, 3 at the top, 1 at the bottom. And this is just a good crossing pattern, showing good depth and good carry up. Now, I love how he climbs the ladder a little bit here. When it comes to the vertical, that's great because it wasn't the best pass, but the pass had to go over the DB. Or in that, I think this is a sunken linebacker. So he has to go up and get the ball, but at the same time, I love how he's carrying up the route too. So we want to watch that first. As the crossing pattern comes across, I want you to note, he is not just running straight. he is carrying up with this. And this is what you want to do. You've got a mesh concept here in this 3x1. Mesh concept being two overlapping crossing patterns that are basically rub routes. You've got the one underneath by Juwan Johnson, then the one over the top that's kind of scaling a little bit past the mid. Why do we do that? Again, it's taking the angle away from defenders and carrying it up to where if he had run straight across, you saw the break was right around the 41. Had he run straight across, this is a pick six or just a straight interception, or at best, a pass breakup. Because he carries up his route, he leaves enough room to throw the ball into the window because he's carrying up slightly. It's a staggered growth. It's nothing insane. You'll see it in another crossing pattern later if I remember how I set up these plays, but it's enough to help change that. See, that's the difference. Now, one thing, just from a quarterback perspective, you want the ball right here, not right here. But in terms of where it went height-wise, it needed that extra depth of that route to be able to go to a place where his receiver then had to go get the ball. If he had run a flattened out or had just straight cut into it, it would not have been this play. Great catch, though, and great going up and climbing the ladder to make the catch. Yeah, Andy Dalton needs to throw it a little bit further in front of him, but because the route climbed up on top of the zone, you can get the ball above that defender's hand. That's a good play, and that's all because of him having better route running as the year went on. Now, I don't think his route running is perfect, but there are some things that have really improved it. Now, let's talk about a Saints staple that you've heard me talk about a lot because, well, a lot of teams in the NFL run this, especially West Coast teams. Again, in a 3x1 set, this is a very traditional look, which is why it's going to get covered so well. But you will see him run this play a lot, and I anticipate him running this play a lot in 2023. And this is the, of course, Yankee concept. We're going to have motion, turn it into a 2x2, but slightly different. We're keeping that tight end back until he releases late. And then you've got Taysom Hill being the underneath guy. For those who are unfamiliar with how the Yankee concept works, Taysom really runs really rounded off crossing patterns, but there's the underneath aspect of it, and then sharp cut into a post route on the top, but that post route cutting 12-ish yards. So you're going to see him cut right, well, a little bit long. That's actually what, 17-yard cut. But that post route cutting on top of that undercut route by Taysom Hill, you're trying to get the safety to bite down. Now, Philly covers this very well, and Philly actually has some great secondary plays. You see, we've got the underneath covered. We carried over the top. We matched. We have nobody here in our zone, so we're going to provide the help on the backside. It's just really well done by Philly. But in terms of role, here is one of those examples, and don't worry, you will see Shaheed dominate in this game with a deep route. But this is a Saints staple. So now the reason I bring this play up is a lot of times you'll see this role handled by your best deep threat, which is Chris Olave. But if you trust a guy enough to handle that play and handle that pressure, you'll put him in. They trust, at least they did last year, Rashid Shaheed enough to run the role as the primary deep read for several concepts that are common to this team and have been for well over a decade. Whether it was Pete Carmichael calling the plays or Sean Payton with Drew Brees, this is a concept that y'all have heard me talk about a lot. Hell, we have it in our merch store. It's a freaking t-shirt. Like, it's not a new thing. At least I hope to God it's not a new thing to some of y'all. We have it as a t-shirt at the merch store because it's so common. It's one of those things that you will see a lot of. Speaking of said t-shirt, right there. Pull the trigger, revduce.com. It's the Yankee concept right there. So because this is something that we're familiar with, seeing him get this type of responsibility as the year went on is an encouraging sign if you're a fan of Rashid Shaheed. I'm a fan, and I'm hoping that we continue to see more of that development. But anyway, let's watch the route real quick as he breaks it down. And there he hits the 10-yard mark, and then bam, right there around 17 yards, he cuts into the break. A little bit longer than I thought, but oh well, no big deal. Let's see, how deep does Taysom go? Taysom breaks in at 12. So I guess, yeah, 12 and 17. They were really trying to push that ball. I guess I got used to certain arms that don't reach as far as they used to. Anyway, let's move on to the next play. But anyway, there's some Yankee, and we're going to then do another edition of climbing with your route, providing a better target. You're going to see him here, top of your screen. Watch him as he comes across right now. Straight across, but gets underneath, and then we'll look at him carrying up. I love it. Now, does this ever get to him? No. But what is this doing? You can see it really well in this angle. So he has to cut underneath because of Kamara's man, which is fine. But instead of this being a flat route, look at him carrying it. And what does this do? It naturally boxes out that DB behind you from getting right in the throwing lane. And when you combine it with your speed, you're keeping the separation that you form. So not only are you taking away his angle, because as you can see, he now becomes on your back hip instead of your forward hip, making it harder as long as you have the speed to keep that separation prevalent, harder for him to get in front of it, while also you provided a very open throwing window. Remember what he did earlier on that scramble drill? Same thing here. He carries up enough to one, cut the angle so he can cut up field if he catches the ball. He's also got the speed to keep the separation. Because here's the thing, you can't do this and not have separation or the extra speed needed to do this. If you try to carry up and you've got a guy on top of you, but he's going to just blow by you, well, you're just asking to get either a pass breakup or an interception. But the carry up combined with his athleticism puts him in a unique position to have success and really be effective with these type of routes, which is one of the reasons I like him out of the slot. And again, I think that Philly has a fantastic defense. Now, when the Saints were playing them, everybody can debate, were they going all out? Do they have all their stars? No, but that's not really the point. The point is, did you see growth? Do you see trust? Do you see Shaheed becoming a better guy? I think you do as the season went on. And if this were a 2-3 hour film, say we could go over all of his games, maybe you could see that. But even he sees it. Look, exasperation right there. Just hanging his head back. Why did the sack have to come? I had it. I would have been able to make a play. Sadly, he's not able to on this third down and convert. But it's still great to see this happening. I like to see this type of play. I want to see this type of growth. You don't see it from every receiver. You can see it from this back angle real quick. Again, see how the separation stays the same. He's got the speed, but he's also carrying up that angle. He's trying to move upfield, yards after catch. Big deal. We all love it. Well, that's how. Simple things in how you do your routes. Sadly, the pass protection didn't really happen there. Not much protecting going on, but again, offensive line woes, end of the year, injuries, health, it's a problem, and you can see why there. Now, this one, I actually made a show of this. This is not Rashid Shaheed, but I do want to show it. And shout out to Ross Jackson because he talked about this as well. When you talk about what a lot of modern defenses are running, these match concepts, whether it be quarters match, whether it be cover 3 match, things like that, if you're coming in traditional sets, like a traditional 3x1, 2x2, etc., it's a lot easier for a team to recognize how to defend it. But what does New Orleans do here? Well, you've got a 3 and then kind of a 2. You got an inline tight end and then your house receiver. But this is a very different look. But the route concepts are not very different, and it's very effective at stressing this defense. And use Rashid Shaheed as your point man again with Chris Olave. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not Chris Olave. That's Rashid Shaheed at the top, I believe. But either way, I wanted to show off the type of play. And I love this. This is type of stuff that if you can actually have more of this, you have a better example of an effective team. You see how the deep safeties are both worried, stressing, but they have to play back and respect. You don't exactly know what's happening. You kept Kamara back here as a quick drop off, but you are attacking a hole with essentially 2 post routes that not many people saw coming because of the alignment. I need to see more of this visionary almost type of play calling. Design things to beat defenses. Dictate what they're doing. Don't do what they tell you to do. Pete Carmichael, it's not often I give you a lot of praise, but this was a game where plays were pretty well drawn up. I liked a lot of the designs they went with, even things that weren't successful. Now let's go over to this one. This is a Sean Payton staple. And what I mean by that is it's 3rd and short. What are they going to do? Go for the home run. This is a Sean Payton. This is honestly a lot of West Coast offense staples. Get aggressive on 3rd and shorts, especially this part of the field, and they're going to do it here. I'm going to play it live. Here's Shaheed right here at the bottom, running what's essentially a go route with an inverted dino stem. And by the way, if you're a receivers coach out there, truly I'm asking, because I don't know what you would call this, but if you're a receivers coach, what do you call an inverted dino stem? A dino stem, for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, is where you break to the outside and then cut inside like you would do on a post route. Well, he's doing the opposite. He's breaking in to carry up. And if I did learn what that's called, I've done forgotten it. But anyway, he's going to sail the inside, try to get a commitment, and then he's going to burn pass. So sail the inside just enough to get those hips to sit, You want to get him facing the inside and then break to the outside, attack his outside shoulder. He does that, calls for the ball. If that ball is thrown a little bit further for him to carry under it or run under it, he's probably going to the house with it. But instead, it's a smidge short still. Pressure will do that. It's a great pass. And this is the type of route that many people familiarize themselves with Rashid Shaheed. They're used to this. But this is honestly not what I love the most about him. I do love this route. Don't get me wrong. He attacks the inside enough to get those hips dedicated to the inside, and then he breaks. It's beautiful. But the deep play is not just what Rashid Shaheed is. Now, this is what people are going to remember, and that's fine. Be excited because this is a great play, and you love to see it. What excites me is all these other little things we've been talking about in terms of can he grow? Can he be better? It's the little things that he's making better that I really like. But I got to admit, in terms of how he operates through the stem here, the entire route phase, his plant foot, all of it is just really crispy, really good plant there. You can actually see the little pebbles popping out of the dirt, hits that outside shoulder and attacks it, keeps like 2 or 3 yards of separation throughout the process, tracks the ball over his shoulder. I mean, this is what you want to see from a starting caliber wide receiver. And I'm not telling you he's there yet, because I do think that there are things that he can improve on. But when you watch this tape, you see a lot of things that you just simply can't help but love. I'm going to let you watch it one more time. Then we want to go to a couple of more before we wrap up today's film study on Rashid Shaheed, and who is, in my opinion, the front runner to be your starting slot guy, but also contribute in multiple spots down the field. Just a beautiful route there against what is a very good Philly defense last year. So let's go up, and we're going to fast forward a little bit more to the 22:50 mark, right-ish there. I'm going to rewind it just a smidge. So again, when I talk about Rashid Shaheed and what impresses me, I don't want to limit it to just he's a deep guy, right? Like, I don't want to limit him to, oh, he's Robert Meacham, or oh, he's Devery Henderson. He's not. He can be more. Like this quick little out route is, it doesn't seem like much, but it's a quick little move the chains, 5-6 yards, little hezzy move against a nickel guy. And this is actually why I like him not playing on the line of scrimmage. And what I mean by that is when you play from the slot or a flanker position, notice both of these guys. See this guy and see this guy. See how they're off the line of scrimmage? So the rules in the NFL and football in general is you have to have, you've got a couple of these receivers, they've got to be on the line of scrimmage. So your tight ends, tight ends over here on the line of scrimmage. And then your split end. You know, we talk about a split end receiver right here on the line of scrimmage. Michael Thomas, typically on the line of scrimmage. You know, your Jimmy Grahams, your Juwan Johnson, typically on the line. A flanker or a slot guy have a little bit of an advantage because they can actually start behind the line, usually about 2 yards. And that gives them immediate cushion and immediate space. In fact, Chris Olave was like 4th best in the NFL last year in cushion at like 7 yards because of his natural flanking position, plus the respect defenses gave him when it came to his ability to attack deep. So you get that extra space, and then you get the ability to have a really agile guy, a guy who has a lot of that quick twitch and does stuff like this. Just bam, break to the outside, get 5-6 yards. I love these type of plays. This is actually what I think can make him a consistent chain mover at the slot position next level. Yes, moving big plays is great. We want those 50-yard bombs, but what really is going to help get first downs is stuff like pivot routes, quick out routes, these quick crossing patterns that carry up, the ability to operate the scramble drill. And those are the plays that I look at make me go, hey, maybe that Rashid Shaheed actually becomes a guy the team can rely on, who can maybe convert 30 to 40 first downs in a year, which is what you really want from a slot guy, if not more. These are the type of routes I'm focused on. And this isn't even the best one. Like, he ran a pivot route last year that was beautiful towards the end of the season. Key is, does he continue with the growth? Does he get better as a developing player? And what more does he add to his tool shed while also improving some of the things that he's not amazing at? Play strength is not a strength for him, really. That doesn't mean he's a bad player, but it is an area to get better at. And the better he gets at that, the more that he has to be respected for things like slant routes. And I know Michael Thomas has earned that nickname, and honestly not really even appropriately, because his best route when he was in his prime was the crossing pattern. But you look at Rashid Shaheed, if you want him to have more route viability, he needs to improve on his play strength. You want to see him continue to get better at certain routes in terms of his hip fluidity and his ability to rotate. That's really good, but still you want him to sink down on curls a little bit better. Like, look how Chris Olave does it. or look how prime Michael Thomas does it. There are little things that Rashid Shaheed can do better. But when you talk about developing from beginning of the season to the end of the season, this is some of the best growth you've ever seen from an individual Saints receiver, from just point A to point B, how much they got better in one singular season. Can he continue that? Well, you got to hope so, right? I mean, you have to hope that he becomes a better player with more training, more talent, more offseason. And hopefully that's the case, because the Saints could definitely use a new high-end slot guy who can operate as well as a flanker. Rashid Shaheed's the type of player that I like to say works inside out, which means that slot guy is probably his main thing, but he can roll out, be your primary flanker, and do some heavy damage. You want him to have that versatility, and I think he's on the precipice of doing just that. And hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, well, let me know. Like, comment. That actually helps out YouTube videos a lot, but if not, commenting is huge for YouTubers. So check out the comment section and say something. Agree, disagree, doesn't matter. Help us out. And another thing that you can do, finally, last but not least, like the video. I mean, it's pretty simple. All you gotta do is thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to get access to more Saints content, well, you need to be here to do that. And finally, if you want to support the channel in a way that, well, makes you really dope, check out the merch store, revdeuce.com, and you can get you the pull the trigger, which is actually, you literally just saw this play on screen. The gold would have been Taysom Hill, and then the red would have been Rashid Shaheed. Slightly different than the way you saw it, but the same basic idea. Common Saints play definitely gives you some water cooler talk right here. Or you can rep the podcast with the retro classic Who Dat Confessional shirt. Either way, if you decide to support the channel, is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the film study. Who Dat, God bless. Catch you on the next one. And that's it. I'm out.